15. Vasudeva Sukam Kansachanuramardhanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadguru. Sri Bhagavan Vacha Urdhvamulam Madhashakam Ashwatam Prahuravyayam Chandamsi Yasya Paranani Yastam Veda Saveda Ved Adashchordhvam Prasatastasya Sakha Puna Pravirda Vishaya Pravala Adascha Mulani Anusamtatani Karmanubhandini Manu Shaloke Narupamasye Atato Palapyate Nanto Nachadir Nacha Sampratishta Ashwatamenam Suvirudamulam Asangasastrena Tridena Chitva Tatha Padam Tat Parimargitafyam Yasmin Gatana Nivatanti Bhuya Tam Eva Chadyam Purusham Prapadye Yatta Pravarti Prashata Purani Nirmana Moha Chita Sanga Dosha Adhyatma Nitya Vinivreta Kama Dvandve Vimukta Sukhaduka Samnir Kachanta Muda Padamauyayam Tat Na Tad Vasayate Suryo Na Shashanko Na Pavaka Yadgatva Na Nivartante Taddama Paramam Mama Mamaivamso Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana Manashasthani Indriyani Prakatishthani Karshati Sariram Yadavapnoti Yakchapyutkramati Swara Krihitvetani Samyati Vayurgandhani Vansayat Srotram Chakshus Prasanam Cha Rasanam Granam Evacha Adhisthaya Manaschayam Visayan Upasevate Utkramantam Stitam Vapi Punjanam Vagunan Vidam Vimudhanan Upashyanti Pashyanti Jnana Chakshusha Yatanto Yoginaschainam Pashyantyatmanya Vashtitam Yatanto Pyakritatmano Nainam Pashyanta Chetasaha Yat Aditya Gatam Tejo Jagad Vasayate Khilam Yak Chandramasi Yak Chaknau Tat Tejo Vidimamakam Gam Avishya Chabhutani Tarayam Nyahamojasa Pushnami Chausadi Sarva Soma Bhutva Rasatmaka Aham Vaishvanaro Bhutva Praninam Deham Ashrita Prana Pana Samayukta Pachamyanam Chaturvidam Sarvasya Chaham Hridisam Nivishto Matta Smitiryanam Apohanam Cha Vedescha Sarve Ahameva Vedyo Vedanta Kritveda Videva Chaham Tvau Imau Purushau Loke Charascha Chara Evacha Chara Sarvani Bhutani Kutashto Chara Uchyate Uttama Purushastvanya Paramatmetyudharata Yo Lokatrayam Avishya Vibhardya Vyaya Ishvara Yashmacharam Atitoham Aksharadapi Chotama Atosmi Loke Vedecha Pratita Purushotama Yo Mam Evam Asammudo Janati Purushotamam Sa Sarva Vidbhajati Mam Sarva Bhavena Bharata Iti Guyatamam Shastram Idam Muktam Mayanaga Etad budhva buddhimanshat kritakrityascha bharata. Om Tatsaditi Srimad Bhagavad Gita Supanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Sri Krishna Arjun Samvade Purushottama Yogo Nam Panchadasodhyaya. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hari Om Tat Sat. Sri Krishna Arpanam Astu Shubham Bhuyat Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kansa Chanuramardhanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadguru. Hari Om to all of you. Today is our last class. It has been a long journey. I can't remember when we started. You remember? Maybe 3 years ago. October 2022. So 23, 24, 25, 3 over years just to complete the Gita. So it's not what you call, it's not an overnight thing that you can just simply grasp the message of the Gita. And congratulations to those of you who have, been there from the beginning. Okay, so today we got a final few verses to cover, and from verse 72. But before I touch on verse 72, I just want to have a quick look at the final verse, or rather the final instructions of Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, which is chapter 18, verse 66. There is one very important point I want to highlight on this. Chapter 18, verse 66. So if you remember last week, I said that the Gita teachings actually end with this chapter. They begin in chapter 2, verse 11, and they end in chapter 18, verse 66. So what is the important one word from this verse? The verse is Ma Suchaha. You can see in the Sanskrit text, the last line there, fourth line, Ma Suchaha, which means do not worry or do not grieve. Now, this Ma Suchaha, do not worry or do not grieve, has been constantly repeated by Krishna throughout the Gita. And the very first time he again used this phrase, do not grieve, was when he gave the very first instructions in Bhagavad Gita, and that is chapter 2, verse 11. So if you go back again to chapter 2, verse 11, that is on page 30, okay? The first instructions, the first teachings of Krishna in the Gita, chapter 2, verse 11. He says to Arjuna, you grieve over those who should not be grieved for. Now remember, the battle, Mahabharata battle had not started. Yet Arjuna was already thinking, in this great battle, there were 4 million soldiers assembled on the battlefield, on both sides, totaling 4 million soldiers. And the battle had not started. Yet Arjuna started crying and telling to Krishna, we are fighting for this kingdom. Millions of people are going to die. And those people are my beloved, my gurus, my elders, my relatives. All these people are going to die. Is it worth, Krishna, for me to fight this battle just to get back my kingdom at the cost of all these people dying? But what is the important message here? To a soldier, Arjuna was a soldier. What is the important point that Krishna is telling him? When he's telling him to fight this battle, what is he trying to tell him? He's telling him, don't run away from the battlefield. Don't give up your duty as a soldier. Fight this battle. Now, what does that mean to you and me? Perform your duty. You cannot run away from your duties. And normally we like to avoid or run away from those duties which are troublesome, which are causing us pain or trouble and sorrow. So here, he had to understand that this war is not just a war between relatives, it is a war to uphold dharma. And one of the qualities of a soldier, Kshatriya, is to protect dharma. So a soldier must not be aggressive and simply attack people. but he must defend when dharma is being attacked. And that is one thing that Arjuna got confused. So when this sorrow overpowered him, he started telling Krishna, all these people are going to die, this is going to happen, that is going to happen. So what is Krishna telling him now in this verse? You grieve over those who should not be grieved for, and yet you speak like a learned person, because he was literally lecturing Krishna why this war should not be fought. Wise men do not, now this is the most critical line here. Wise men do not grieve over the dead or the living. Now, what is that message to us? Wise men should not grieve over the dead or for the living. Meaning, if people have died, why are you crying over that? And people who are living, who have not yet died, why are you crying about that? But the more deeper message is this. Most of the time, we are grieving over what? The past, which is gone, okay, and the future, which is not even there yet. So most of the time, our mind is focused on the dead past or the unborn future. This is the message that we want to take. And this is why Krishna keeps saying, don't grieve, but concentrate on your duty. Focus on the present. Be aware of what you're doing now. Give full attention on the present. And surrender the results to me. The results you cannot control all the time. Yet that result is what is worrying you. It is not the action that is worrying you. It is the result. That result you surrender to the Lord. And you will find peace of mind. So here in chapter 2, verse 11, the first instruction, do not grieve. Again, he says the same thing in chapter 2, verse 27. You look at 2:27, page 37. Death is certain of that which is born. Birth is certain of that which is dead. Right? The soul goes through birth and death. The body dies, the soul goes on to take another body. You should not therefore lament. Again, the word na sochitum atasi. You should not grieve. So you should not grieve, you should not grieve. Constantly Krishna is talking about this. Then again in verse 16, chapter 16, verse 5, you look at chapter 16, verse 5, find that page. Chapter 16, verse 5. Page 281. Chapter 16, verse 5. Divine tendencies are deemed to be for liberation. The divine qualities that in Krishna gave in chapter 16, verses 1, 2, and 3, 20 divine qualities he gave. Okay, are you all okay with that? Am I going too fast? No? Okay, chapter 16, verse 5. This chapter is entitled The Division Between the Divine and the Demoniac Qualities. So in chapter 16, verses 1, 2, and 3, Krishna gave 20 divine qualities. Now he's telling us these divine tendencies, the more and more of these 20 qualities you have, they are deemed for liberation. You will get moksha. And the demoniacal qualities which were given in verse 4, hypocrisy, arrogance, pride, they are deemed for bondage. Bondage meaning you will come back for subsequent births again and again. Then he tells Arjuna again, Ma suchaha, grieve not. Again he says, don't worry, don't grieve. Because you are born, thou art born with divine properties. You have that divine properties in you. So again, constantly and finally again, the closing message, chapter 18, verse 66, again he repeats the same phrase, do not grieve. Meaning, don't live in the past and don't worry about the future. Stay in the present. Now, there is a difference between planning and grieving. Is it wrong to plan for the future? Planning is within your control. You can do it whenever you want. But grieving is what we call unproductive, right? Worrying is unproductive. Planning is productive. Once we have a plan, we put it into action, then we surrender the results to the Lord. Because whether our plan works or doesn't work, it is out of our control most of the time. Okay. So with this, the most important message is do not grieve. Do not waste your time focusing on the past and the future. Stay in the present. So that brings us back to our verse from today, verse number 72. Now, the teachings are over, but Krishna is just giving us some final instructions now, what to do. Okay? So now in verse 72, okay. Now in verse 72, he wants to ask Arjuna just one question here. The whole teachings have been given. Now he's just asking Arjuna one question. What is that? He says, Kaschit etat, whether these teachings which I have given you now, this dialogue which Krishna is saying to Arjuna, all these teachings which I have imparted to you, and when did he actually bring this? These Gita teachings are not new teachings. When were these teachings given? What we're studying in the Gita is not new. The Lord had spoken about the same teachings earlier. Where? Huh? Sorry? To the sun god, that was given in chapter 4, verse 1. Krishna said, at the beginning of creation, when the sun was created, the teachings were given to the sun god. And what did the sun god do with the teachings? He passed it on to Manu. Manu is the first human being who walked this planet Earth. So the teachings were given to the first human being. And then what did Manu do? He passed on the teachings to Ikshvaku. Ikshvaku is the first ruler of the solar dynasty. Okay. And then from there, this knowledge percolated down through all the generations. But what happened? Krishna said in chapter 4 that slowly these teachings decline until they almost perish. And why did that happen? Why did these teachings slowly decline until they almost perish? What is the reason? How many students today in the class here? If you go to Coffee Bean, you'll see more people sitting there. So what does this tell us? People lose interest because of too many material distractions here. So people got engrossed chasing after all the material distractions of the world. So what Krishna says now? He says, I came in this Krishna form, not just to kill all these Kauravas and all the kind of thing. The main reason Krishna came was to re-establish these teachings which were given at the beginning of time as the Vedas. The same teachings are being given in the Gita, so there's no difference between the Gita and the Vedas. The Gita is a condensation of the Vedas. The Vedas contain more than 100,000 verses. Gita is a condensation in 700 verses, explains the whole philosophy of Vedas. So Vedas, there are just two parts which are discussed. One is called Karma Kanda, the path of action, and the other is Jnana Kanda, the path of knowledge. In Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, verse 3, Krishna said the same thing. I came here to give you two types of knowledge. One is called as Karma Yoga, which is same as Karma Kanda in the Vedas. The other is Jnana Yoga, which is same as Jnana Kanda in the Vedas. So now he's asking Arjuna whether this dialogue, this knowledge which I have given at the beginning of time, Srutam, has been heard by you. Now, here's the important point. Whenever we hear any knowledge, if we want to absorb this knowledge, what is the most important criteria we must have? Huh? Sorry? You must have concentration, isn't it? Concentration. If your mind is somewhere else, this 1-2 hours will pass by. You'll enjoy the aircon and go back without any knowledge at all. So here it tells Arjuna, Srutam, has this been heard by you, ekagrena, with a single pointed chetasa, single pointed mind? Have you paid close attention to what I have been teaching to you? Have you absorbed this knowledge? So in Jnana Yoga, this path of knowledge, as we have discussed earlier, there are three what we call steps. First is what we call Shravanam. That is, we must hear this knowledge. Constantly we must hear. But the knowledge does not stop here. After hearing Shravanam, you must do Mananam. What is Mananam? You must reflect on what you've heard. You must question on what you've heard. And this is very important, because what you hear, there will be some doubts. Maybe you're not very sure what you have heard. So all these doubts you have to note down. You have to try to clear these doubts. Otherwise, you'll always be confused about this knowledge. So Shravanam, hearing, Mananam, reflect on it, retrospect on the knowledge, and then comes Nididhyasanam, which means you put it into practice. So Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam. But it starts first with Ekagrena Chetasa, single pointed mind. Have you heard this knowledge? Okay. So now he's saying, what is the purpose now of attaining this knowledge? Why are we studying this Gita knowledge? So he says, Kaschit te tava, has this knowledge, the purpose of studying this knowledge now is given to us here in this verse. Ajnanena sammoha. Sammoha is delusion. Moha is delusion. When the word sam or the prefix sam is applied, it means deep delusion. Now, what is the definition of delusion? Delusion is seeing something and understanding something else different. So, the greatest delusion that we have is, what is the purpose of this human life? Why have we taken this human birth? So, if you ask people who have no knowledge, why you taken the human birth? What do we do in human birth? We eat, we drink, we sleep, we work, and we procreate. These are the 5 things that every human being does. The next question we ask is, if human beings are only doing these 5 things, how are you different than the animals? Because the animals also eat, they also drink, they also sleep, they also need to work to gather their food and hunt for their food, and they need to procreate. So therefore, is there a purpose for human life? Human life has not been given to us to eat, drink, and be merry. Human life is our only possibility or our only way of reaching and being one with the Lord. Why? Because human birth is the only birth that has been gifted with the intellect, with the buddhi, to understand, to rationalize, to differentiate, to read the scriptures, and to make a change in our lives. Animals, insects, birds, bees cannot make a change in their lives, but human beings have a right to change. So delusion is not understanding the purpose of human life. And what is this samoha? What is it caused by? He says ajnana. Jnana is knowledge. Ajnana is what we call ignorance. Because of ignorance, we are in a state of delusion. So what will clear your state of delusion? Only knowledge can clear your state of delusion. So he's saying that the purpose of us studying this Gita knowledge first is to destroy this delusion, is what is the goal and the purpose of human life. How we should lead our lives as a human being. And that's why you all know what is the first word in the Gita, chapter 1, verse 1? Dharma. So the first word in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 1, verse 1 is dharma. And the last word, chapter 18, verse 78 is mama. Dharma, mama, which means my dharma, which means what is my duty as a human being. I want to know how is the right way for me to live my life as a human being, and to avoid, how do I navigate through all these conflicts and challenges that I'm going to face. So he says, has your delusion caused by ignorance, pranashtas, has it been destroyed? Now that I've given you the knowledge, has your ignorance, which is which is causing your delusion, has it been destroyed? And moha in our scriptures is given as one of the 6 Arishva Dvargas. Arishva Dvargas are enemies of the mind. We have 6 enemies of the mind which we have to battle. And what are they? Kama, Krodha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya, one more, Lobha. Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya. Now, what are they and how do they affect us? What is Kama? Kama? Desires, selfish desires. Okay, selfish desires take us further and further away from the divine path. So Kama is one of the enemies, the 6 enemies. Krodha, and see how desires are related to Krodha. How are desires related to anger? Unfulfilled desires, any what we call any obstacle to fulfilling our desires results in Krodha. How strong are your desires? And that desires which is interrupted will depend on the strength of your anger. So Kama, Krodha. Lobha is greed. Okay, greed is excessive desires when you cannot control your desires. So Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha. Moha is delusion, which we just discussed. Mada. Mada is intoxication. When we have everything in our life, when we have so much of success, wealth, power, position, it intoxicates. It takes away our power of thinking, of rationalizing. Matsarya is envy. So Mada, intoxication, arrogance means when we look down on people. Envy is when we are jealous of people who have more than us. So what is left now? Kama, Krodha, Moha, Mada. Moha we finish. Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya. 6. So these 6 are the greatest enemies of the mind, which we have to guard our mind from. Okay. So now he's asking Arjuna, has your delusion born out of ignorance, has it been removed? Okay. Now in the next verse, he carries on to inquire of Arjuna. He says, if your moha, once your moha, in verse number 73, Arjuna says, he's replying now to Krishna now. Since Krishna has asked him, has your delusion been, has your delusion been removed? So now Arjuna is replying to him. He says to Krishna, this moha, this delusion of mine, which has caused me confusion on my duty, what am I supposed to do as a soldier on this battlefield, is now nashtaha, it is now destroyed. So he confirms to Krishna that yes, your teachings have benefited me, my delusion has been destroyed. Now, when delusion is destroyed, what happens? Smritir. That means I had this knowledge, I had an understanding, but because I was overpowered by grief or by anger, you see, all these 6 qualities, when they overpower us, we lose our capacity to think. And whatever knowledge that we have accumulated over the years, it becomes worthless because these 6 qualities overpower us. You see, when greed overpowers somebody, what happens? That's where they lead to corruption, they lead to scams, they do all the wrong things to earn money. It is not that they do not know it is wrong to do all this. But because greed has overpowered them, they are unable to rationalize properly. So he's saying, my moha nashtaha, my moha has been destroyed. As a result, smritir, my memory, all the right thinking, all the right knowledge which I have has now returned back to me. Now I understand perfectly what to do. So now all my confusion is gone. I understand my dharma in this battlefield as a soldier. I know what I should do. Because before Arjuna came to the battlefield, he already declared to the Kauravas that I'm going to kill all of you. I'm going to finish all of you. Because you have cheated us, you have deceived us, you have robbed us of our kingdom, and you have done a lot of atrocious things to our family. So I'm going to fight this war. But when he came to the battlefield, he was so overpowered by sorrow that he forgot everything, what he was supposed to do. So now he says, I have this right thinking. And how did I get this? How was my delusion destroyed? How did I now understand the right thing to do? He says, Tvat prasadat, by your grace, by your prasadam. So recognizing, being very humble, that it is not only because of us we know what to do. Sometimes we need a higher source to give us the instructions, to teach us, to instruct us what to do. So he's paying his gratefulness to Krishna. He's saying, Tvat prasadat, by your grace of imparting these teachings to me, my confusion has cleared. And he addresses Krishna here as Achyuta. Achyuta means, Chuta means one who has fallen. Achyuta means one who is always upright. Why is he called Achyuta? Because he always teaches dharma. He always teaches us the path of dharma. So Krishna is another name called Achyuta. In fact, when we chant every 31st December here in Gita Ashram, we chant the 1,000 names of Vishnu. So in the chanting of the 1,000 names, this word Achyuta also occurs in the 100th name and the 318th name. So Achyuta is one of the words, one of the terms to refer to Krishna and also to Vishnu. It means what we call one who is upright, who is straightforward, and who always talks about dharma. So now that you have received the teachings, now that your delusion is cleared, your memory has come back, you know what to do, what should be the next step? Arjuna declares to Krishna, since my memory has returned, Stitaha asmi, I stand before you. Gata sandeha, I am now free of all doubts, and therefore, Karishe tava vachanam. Karishe, I shall follow tava vachanam, your instructions. Now here comes a confusion. When you say, as a human being, oh Lord, I will follow your instructions, what about our free will? Don't we have free will? Here, Arjuna is telling Lord, I will follow your instructions. Then what about our free will? Don't we have a right to choose whether to follow or not to follow? So there is a kind of what we call a contradiction here. So how are we to understand this when Arjuna declares to Krishna, I shall follow your instructions. Karishe vachanam tava. Where does free will then come into question? So we have to understand one thing. Do human beings have free will or not? No. Huh? Yes. No, yes. Yes. Now you're confusing me, no? So we have free will. When we align our free will with the Lord, we follow the path of dharma. But we have a choice. We can choose not to align our free will with the teachings of the Lord, which means we will follow adharma. So free will is there. It gives you a choice whether you want to follow the teachings of the Gita. That means you follow the teachings of the Lord and follow dharma. And when you follow dharma, there's a saying, dharmo rakshati rakshitaha. Meaning, the one who walks the path of dharma is in turn protected by dharma, is in turn guided by dharma. So dharma will not leave you alone. In fact, there is a lot of dharma. In our scriptures, there's a lot of dharma also. So if you follow the path of dharma, dharma will protect you, dharma will guide you. So we have a free will to choose. So now what has Arjuna done? Now, okay, one more question. If we don't follow our free will, what do we follow? If we choose not to follow our free will, or rather we don't align our free will with dharma, what is it that will guide us then? What is it that will guide us? Exactly. All the impurities in your mind, your likes, dislikes, anger, greed, jealousy, arrogance, everything. These are the qualities that will guide your actions. So you have a choice. Either you listen to these impure qualities or you listen to the teachings of the Lord and align your free will to follow the teachings of the Lord. Okay. So we have to understand again here, we are not blindly asked to follow the teachings. We have a choice. We have a free will. We can decide whether we want to follow and or not to follow. Okay. So now Arjuna is considered that he is going to follow the teachings of the Lord. So what happens in the balance 5 closing verses of the Gita now? Sanjaya takes over. Okay, so you can see in 74, Sanjaya Uvacha. Okay. So Sanjaya Uvacha means Sanjaya speaks, and I think you all know who is Sanjaya, right? Sanjaya was the charioteer of Dhritarashtra, and he is sitting now in the palace of Hastinapura with the blind king Dhritarashtra. And Sanjaya has been blessed with Divya Drishti. Divya means divine, Drishti means sight. So sitting in Hastinapura, he is able to see what is happening and is able to hear everything that is going on in the battlefield in Kurukshetra. And he's now telling the king what is happening now. So he's telling him now, I've heard this dialogue. Arjuna has now informed Krishna that he will follow his teachings and he will start fighting the war. So now Sanjaya says to Dhritarashtra, Imam Samvadam, Imam this Samvadam, dialogue. Now the word Samvadam is also very important for us to understand. When we say two people are having a discussion, there can be many, many reasons why people are having discussion. Some are just having discussion just to argue with you. I know I am wrong, but just to, I don't want to show you that I'm wrong. So I can have a discussion or argument with you. So there are many types of dialogue, there are many types of discussion. But Samvadam is one of the highest forms of dialogue or discussion. What it means is that two parties discussing for the purpose of finding the real truth. And both are discussing from humility. So there is no arrogance. And if I'm wrong, I will say I'm wrong. So here is a dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna, like just now we recited, right? Om Tat Saditi, Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Supanishatsu, Brahma Vidyayam, Yoga Shastre, Sri Krishna Arjuna Samvade. It is a dialogue between two respected individuals who respect one another, who love one another, and the purpose of the dialogue is to find the truth. So he says, Sanjaya says to Dhritarashtra, Imam Samvadam, this dialogue between who? Vasudevasya, Sri Krishna, another name for Krishna, and Parthasya Mahatmanaha. Partha is another name for Arjuna. Here, Sanjaya is also giving him another title. He's calling him Mahatmanaha. Mahatmanaha means a great soul person. So, why is Sanjaya addressing Arjuna as Mahatmanaha? Anyone who studies this knowledge, anyone who follows this knowledge is considered a great person, a great soul person. So, it declares to Dhritarashtra, Arjuna is Mahatmanaha. He says, Aham, and I also am grateful because Asrausam, I also have heard this dialogue. You see, how many people heard this Krishna Arjuna dialogue? One was, of course, Arjuna. Who else? Huh? Hanuman, who was on the flag of Arjuna's chariot. Then, huh? Ganesha, who was writing down, right, the dialogue. Some more. Sorry, Sanjaya, yes, number 4. Then Dhritarashtra also, yes, but Dhritarashtra did not directly hear it from Sanjaya. And don't forget, who? Huh? Oh, is it? Okay. I don't know, but saw the battle. But don't forget the 6th one, Vyasa. Yes. Vyasa. So these few people were fortunate enough to hear the dialogue directly between Krishna and Arjuna. So here Sanjaya is saying, Aham asrausam. I have also heard Adbhutam, this wonderful, this astonishing dialogue, which fills me with ecstasy. It gives me peace of mind. And as all of us know, just to hear the recitation of the Gita, which Krishna also has mentioned in chapter 18, by hearing also it purifies our mind. So Sanjay is saying now, as a result of this, hearing such a beautiful dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna, Roma Harshanam, my hair is standing on end. I'm having a uplifting experience. Now, this word Roma Harshanam previously was used twice in the Gita. One was in chapter 1, when Arjuna came and saw all the soldiers assembled on the battlefield, and realizing that he had to kill all his kith and kin, he said also, my hair is standing on end. That was because of fright, because of anxiety. Then again in chapter 11, when Krishna revealed the Vishwarupa Darshanam, Arjuna said also, my hair is standing on end, because he was so mesmerized by this whole Vishwarupa Darshanam. And now Sanjaya also saying the same thing, that Roma Harshana, my hair is standing on end. And we all know, we have experienced this sometime when you're in such a state of delight, such a state of ecstasy. Literally, we say, what? My hair is standing on end. So these emotions that Sanjaya is going through. Verse 75, he carries on. He says, why I've been able to experience this wonderful dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna because of Vyasa Prasada. Because of the prasada, the prasadam of Vyasa, the grace of Vyasa, okay, who gave me this divya drishti, that not only could I see what is happening in the battlefield, but I could also hear. You know, the distance between Hastinapura and Kurukshetra, it's approximately about 100 miles. So today, even if you go to Kurukshetra, there are museums. There is a tree where the actual Krishna-Arjuna dialogue took place. You can see all this. They're all there. They're all preserved. And whatever they dug up from the artifacts and all, they're all preserved there. So he says, by the grace of Vyasa, sitting 100 miles away, I could see everything. I could also hear everything. So he says, Aham Srutwan, I have heard Sakshat directly. It is not indirectly from somebody, but directly I could hear Krishna's voice, I could hear Arjuna's voice. Having this Param Guhyam, this supreme secret, this dialogue. And I've already explained to you why it is called a supreme secret. Why is it called a supreme secret? Param Yogam, the most supreme secret. Param Guhyam, supreme secret. Remember a few verses back, we discussed this. Why is this Gita knowledge called the most supreme secret? How do you define a secret? A secret is something that very few people know. So this Gita knowledge also has become like a secret because very few people are interested in it. Not many people know about this. Another reason why it is called supreme secret, because it takes us down to our very core, our very essence of who we are. Very subtle knowledge it is. So it remains a secret for us to discover. So Sanjay is also calling this knowledge Param Guhyam. And on top of that, he says this knowledge is Yogam. So Yogam comes from the root word yoga, and yoga comes from the root word yuj, which means to unite. So that means the benefit of this knowledge is when we study this knowledge, when we implement in our life, we will ultimately unite with the Supreme Being. That's why every chapter of the Gita is called yoga. Arjuna Vishada Yoga, Sankhya Yoga, Karma Yoga, every chapter, all the 18 chapters have the word yoga, because each chapter teaches us how to unite with the Supreme Lord. So he says now, who has revealed this knowledge? Krishna Yogeshwara. Sri Krishna Yogeshwara, the Lord of Yoga, the Master of Yoga. Now, yogis, the definition of a yogi, we use this word, he's a yogi because he's wearing orange or what you call red robes or something. We call him a yogi. But who is a true yogi? Who deserves to be called a yogi? As we said earlier, yoga means to unite with the Lord. Therefore, what is a yogi? Who is striving to unite with the Lord. Not because he's wearing orange or red robes, we call him a yogi, but his intention is all the actions, everything he's doing is to unite with the Lord. So he says Krishna is the Yogeshwara, the Lord of Yoga, because he gives us the instructions how to unite with him. And Swayam Kathayata, he himself, the Lord himself was speaking. Can you imagine if any of us get the opportunity to hear the Lord himself speaking to us? How would be our emotions? So here Sanjaya is declaring that I'm in that state of ecstasy because I've heard directly from the great Lord himself. Verse number 76 now, he says Rajan. So who is this Rajan? Who is this king? It's no other than Dhritarashtra. So Sanjaya is sitting next to him and he's telling him what is happening on the battlefield. He's saying, O king, O Rajan, Imam Adbhutam, this wonderful samvadam, this wonderful dialogue which I've heard between Keshava and Arjuna, between Krishna and Arjuna, is very punyam, is very sacred. Now, if you go back to verse number 71, there Krishna had declared in chapter 18, verse 71, the man who hears this with faith, not even understanding it, but just when we come and listen to the recitation of the 18 chapters, which we do here every month in Gita Ashram on Purnima, we recite all the 18 chapters of the Gita. Okay. So just, even if you don't understand the Sanskrit words, you just come and sit down and listen. Krishna has told us, the man who hears this, but with one quality, two qualities, sorry, with faith, with Shraddha, and who does not cavil, meaning who does not have doubts or what we call, does not feel that the scripture is correct. He has doubts over the scripture. So does not cavil means he has full faith in the scriptures. He shall attain the higher regions attained through deeds of merit. That means those people who are doing dhanam, who are doing seva, who are doing all the good actions, they will go to Swarga Loka. But this person, just by hearing the Bhagavad Gita, also will go to Swarga Loka. This is the promise of Krishna. So coming back to this verse 76, Sanjaya says, I've heard this beautiful dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna, and it is punyam, it is very sacred, because it will help us to wash away the dirt from our mind. And then he says, samspritya, samspritya, remembering, remembering. Rishami, I rejoice, muhur, muhur, again and again. So, very interestingly, we must question, why are the words repeated? See, Sanjaya is repeating, samspritya, samspritya, remembering, remembering, 2 times. As though first time we didn't understand, now he has to repeat it for us. Remembering, remembering, muhur, muhur, again and again. Why is he repeating these words? Why is he saying, I rejoice again and again, I remember again and again, and I rejoice again and again? So why is he repeating it? If you hear this dialogue one time and it brings you so much of ecstasy, would you not want to hear it again? And again, if you hear it and it still brings you so much of ecstasy, would you not want to hear it again and again and again? So Gita recitation or Gita knowledge, you never get tired of it. In fact, for those of you who have been following Bhagavad Gita, I'm sure you realize one thing. Every time you read that verse, after a few years you read the same verse, you have a different understanding. You have a deeper understanding. So there's no end to this Gita knowledge. You cannot say that I've totally understood this, because every time you look at it, there will be some other deeper meaning behind it. So he's saying, I'm remembering again and again, I'm rejoicing again and again. There is no end to my joy also. Then in verse 77, he says, to Dhritarashtra, Rajan, O king, Mahan, so great is my Vishmaya, my wonder, that I am Samspritya. See, Sanjaya just cannot control his ecstasy, his happiness, his state of bliss that he is in. Samspritya. I'm remembering again and again the form of the Lord. He showed a Vishwarupa. I'm remembering that again and again. I'm remembering every word that he has spoken. And here he addresses Krishna as Hari. So there's another form of address for Krishna, Hari. Okay. Adhyadbhutam, which is extremely wonderful Rupam form, which was the form that he showed in chapter 11 as the Vishwarupam, the wonderful form. Okay. And Sanjaya was fortunate enough also to see that whole Vishwarupam. And now in the final verse 78, let us recite. Traditionally, when we end this chapter, we just recite 2 times and then we go into the explanation of the verse. Okay. Yatra Yogeshwara Krishno Yatra Partho Danudara Tatra Sri Vijayo Bhutir Dhruvani Tirmatir Mama Yatra Yogeshwara Krishno Yatra Partho Danudara Tatra Sri Vijayo Bhutir Dhruvani Tirmatir Mama. So this is Sanjaya now giving his final conclusion about the dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna. He's telling the blind king, Yatra, wherever there is, on whoever side, Yogeshwara, the Lord of Yoga, Krishna here, on whose side stands Lord Krishna? That means what? If you invoke Lord Krishna and he is together with you and you are following his teachings, Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna, Yatra, wherever there is Partha, Arjuna. And what does he call Arjuna here? Beautiful word, Dhanudara. Dhanudara means the wielder of the mighty bow. Now, there is a very important reason why he calls Arjuna Dhanudara. If you recall in chapter 1, when Arjuna went into a state of sorrow, Arjuna Vishada Yoga, right? What did he do with the bow? It slipped from his hand. He left it down. He could not raise up his bow. But now he's addressing Arjuna as Dhanudara. That means what? He has picked up his bow and is telling to Krishna, I'm ready to go into battle now. So what does that tell us now? See, every message, we must interpret it to us. Okay, so what? Arjuna took the bow and so what does it mean to me? What does it mean to me or to you? Wherever there is Krishna, wherever there is Arjuna Dhanudara, meaning what? Huh? What does it mean? Okay, that's one way of looking at it. Good. When we believe in Krishna and gives us strength. But second thing is what? So do your duty means pick up the bow and arrow, pick up yourself and go and do your duty. It's just listening is not going to help you. It's just reading the text is not going to help you. If you're going to sit down there and just surrender and tell Krishna, you do everything, I'm just sitting here. He's telling you, pick up your bow and arrow, pick up your duties, pick up yourself, go and get engaged in your duty, in your responsibilities. Don't sit down and wait for me. Don't surrender everything and say you do. Remember, you're not surrendering your action, you're surrendering what? The results. You're not surrendering the action. Because in chapter 2, verse 47, he said, Karma neva adhikaraste. Your duty is to do action, is to perform your duties and responsibilities. Second line, ma paleshu kadachana. The results you surrender to me. Action you have to do. See, if you're hungry, You pray to Krishna and then you go and sleep and say, you send the pizza delivery to my house. Is it going to help? You have to go and do the action. So here he's saying, what type of Partha, what type of Arjuna, Dhanudhara, who has taken up his bow and arrow, is ready to fight. So now, when Krishna is there, you have full confidence and faith in Krishna. You are also doing your duties. What happens? He says, Tatra, there. What happens? So, everything is there now. Karma yoga is there, bhakti yoga is there, jnana yoga is there. What happens? Dhruva, firmly established. This is what will be the result. If your confidence in Krishna and faith is there, if you stand up and do your duties, there is Shri. What is Shri? Shri generally refers to Goddess Lakshmi. So here in this context, it means good things will befall on you. There will be a lot of grace, opulence. So good name, you'll have a good name. It does not mean tomorrow you strike a lottery or something. No. Here it means you'll have a good name, you have a good reputation, and the grace of Krishna will be on you. There will be spiritual growth. Second, there will be Vijaya. Definitely there will be victory. Now victory over what? When we say Vijaya, victory over what? If you follow the teachings of the Gita, you have faith in Krishna, what will you have victory over? Sorry? Your negative qualities, exactly. All these negative impurities in you, that is what you'll have victory over. That's why we normally always wrongly think that taking a dip in the Ganges will wash away our sins. What it actually means is taking a dip in the Ganges should wash away all the negative qualities, so henceforth you don't commit any more sins. Right? So, Vijaya, your victory over your impurities. Okay? In the Mahabharata also there's a very beautiful saying, Yatha dharmo tatha vijaya. Yatha dharmo means when there is dharma, when you walk the path of dharma, tathaya vijaya, then there is victory. Victory over the impurities. So there is Shri, there is good fortune, there is Vijaya, there is victory, there is Bhuti. Bhuti means power. Power of what? There is that strength in you to walk the path of morality, of the path of righteousness. Not the power to destroy other people, but the power to walk the path of righteousness. Because don't forget, to walk this spiritual path is not easy. There are a lot of distractions. There are a lot of people who will criticize you, who won't understand you. So in one of the Kathopanishads, it said, walking the spiritual path is like walking on the edge of a razor blade. You have to be very careful, otherwise you will also fall off the spiritual path. It is not easy. You must have a lot of inner strength. That's why one of Hanuman's, when you read the Hanuman Chalisa, one of the names of Hanuman there is given as Bala Buddhi. Buddhi means strength. But what type of strength? Bala Buddhi. Not physical strength. Bala means mental strength. So by worshipping Hanuman, no doubt he's always depicted as one having physical strength, but actually it is Bala Buddhi that we want. We are not going to fight with people. We need the right Buddhi. So power to progress in the right direction. And then Niti. Niti means virtue. You will follow the path of dharma. You will follow the ethical and moral path. So all these good qualities will come into your life if you follow dharma, follow the teachings of Krishna, have faith in him, and do your duty. And Sanjaya ends with this final conclusion, Mamaha Mati, this is my conviction. He's telling. So indirectly, he's also telling this Dhritarashtra what? What is he telling now indirectly? His final message to Dhritarashtra. By telling that wherever there's Krishna, wherever there's Arjuna, there is victory, there is prosperity, there is ethical, moral, righteousness. What is he telling to the blind king Dhritarashtra? Huh? You're gone. Your children are all gone. Why? Because they're standing on the opposite side. And they've done all the wrong things in life. And Krishna is not standing on their side. He's standing on the side of the Pandavas. So your children are all doomed for destruction. And you all know from the Mahabharata war, out of 4 million people, soldiers assembled on the battlefield, only 10 people survived. It was a massive loss of life. One of the greatest battles in history, and so much of mass destruction going on. Okay. So this is the final verse that Sanjaya also is telling to Dhritarashtra, but it is too late for him to stop the battle, because this Gita happened on the 10th day of the battle, not on the first day. So on the 10th day, what happened on the 10th day of the battle? Mahabharata battle was 18 days, but on the 10th day, something very significant happened. Bhishma Pita was shot by arrows by Arjuna, and he fell on the bed of arrows. And this shocked Sanjaya that he rushed back. He was on the battlefield. He rushed back to Hastinapura to tell the blind king that this catastrophe has happened. Bhishma Pita has fallen. And then the blind king asked him, now you please tell me what happened from day one. So then the Gita comes in from there. So the Gita is embedded in the Mahabharata. In the Mahabharata, there's one book called Bhishma Parva. Parva means a book which is highlighting Bhishma Pita. In Bhishma Parva, chapters 25 to 42, these 18 chapters are extracted and given to us as Bhagavad Gita. So it is embedded and part of the Mahabharata. Okay. So thus ends the teachings of the Gita, and I wish you all a good spiritual journey. I hope please don't stop here. Whether you choose to come back when we start the classes is one thing, but most important is go back and please spend some time daily reading the Gita. Okay. Hari Om Tat Sat, we end with a prayer. Oh yeah, before I forget, those of you, please do help to spread the message about our seminar, half-day seminar next week. Half-day seminar from 8 to 1. And we will focus on the overall view of the Bhagavad Gita. It is more for beginners, so do please spread the message around. Vasudeva Sudam Devam Kansa Chanura Mardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagat Guru. Thank you, Hari Om.